Jeremy Grantham, veteran fund manager and bubble historian, recently said in an interview that Elon Musk is a wonderful propagandist who's managed to talk Tesla stock way up, and he's managed to create money out of thin air, out of BS and charisma. Hi everyone, JJ here with The Art of Value. Welcome. Well, let's see what else Grantham had to say in this recent interview with the Compound and Friends about Elon Musk and Tesla stock. Let's get into it. Now, Grantham started with what he said was his own Tesla loser story, in which he bought a car in 2019, a Model S, and he thought it was the most amazing thing, and he wrote that it was in a quarterly investor letter. So he actually said how amazing it was, but he said how the stock was so expensive. And this was 2019, remember, before the stock went nuts. And he said it was too expensive to buy that back then, so he didn't buy it. And since then, he says the stock is up 10 times, 10x since he said it was too expensive. That's his own loser story. Had the car, owns the car, loves the car, but didn't buy the stock, thought it was too expensive, and 10x from there. And what's more, this is his particular area of investing interest these days. He's very interested in climate tech, early stage climate tech. He said in the interview about 70% of his own money, his foundation's money, is in this area. So he saw Tesla, he had a car, he knew it early, but he didn't buy the stock, thought it was too expensive. The interview hosts pointed out that part of what happened was that Wall Street analysts were auto industry analysts, and they were valuing it differently from other investors, especially retail investors, tech investors, who were valuing Tesla as a tech company, the same as other mega tech companies. So that was a big difference in valuation there. He mentioned that when he first wrote that, Tesla didn't have earnings, they were in a cash crunch, and it was very uncertain whether they would even exist in 2 years' time. Elon was sleeping in a tent, he says, which meaning he was sleeping on the factory floor in the factory at the time to get through. And so things looked very uncertain and it looked super expensive to him. In the interview, they joked that who knew that issuing stock would be bullish for the stock price? Investors couldn't seem to get enough of it. How did this happen, they asked. And Jeremy Grantham said that Elon is such a wonderful propagandist that he talked the stock up beyond any possibility, he said. Grantham said that Elon sold a lot of stock, he got a lot of assets, he talked the stock up, he sold a lot of assets over and over again, and this way he generated a lot of real buying power. He manifested it, and he put that into building the gigafactories. He manifested it out of thin air, out of BS and charisma, he said. Now, Grantham said if you look at a company that's, say, worth $1 and it manages to talk its way up to $10, good luck, he says, implying that that's what Tesla's done. And he said if you look back at 100 years, there's usually big mean reversion that happens after that. He said one or two people have managed to do that over time, but there's usually mean reversion to follow. At this point, Grantham pointed out another person from history who managed to will a big business into existence by talking it up, and that was Ivar Kreuger, the Match King. Now, Kreuger came to be known as the Match King because in the early 20th century, in the 1920s, he came to control 2/3 to 3/4 of global match production. Grantham is obviously comparing this guy to Elon Musk. He was a Swedish civil engineer that started his career in the United States and South Africa, but in 1907 he returned and founded the Match Company. Now, after World War I, he began expanding his business aggressively, negotiating monopolies with governments all over the world. He also became a major investor in other industries like real estate, construction, and banking. At the height of his power, Kreuger became one of the richest people in the world. He was also highly respected in the financial community for his business acumen and intelligence. Does this sound familiar? However, his business empire turned out to be built on shaky foundations. He had used aggressive accounting practices to hide the true state of his finances, and he was actually deeply in debt. When the Great Depression hit, his business empire began to crumble, and in 1932 he was found dead in his Paris apartment, apparently having taken his own life. After his death, it was revealed that he had been engaged in massive fraud. He had used forged documents to deceive investors and creditors, and his companies had been insolvent for years. Now, although a lot of people don't know about it today, the collapse of Kreuger's empire was one of the biggest financial scandals of the 20th century, and it was said to contribute to the severity of the Great Depression because it had impact on the global economy. Now, this story is obviously a cautionary tale about how even the most successful, the wealthiest, most powerful people can be vulnerable to fraud and deceit. Now, I'm not sure why Grantham brought up the story of the Match King here. Does he think that there could be some deceit here with Tesla, how Elon's talked up the stock price, talked the company into existence? Does he think there's something to hide, that there's something being hidden? The short sellers have thought that in the past. We'll have to see what happens in the future. It's a huge company. I don't think many people think that there's widespread fraud with Tesla. We'll have to see if there's anything like that in the future, but it's definitely a big company. And if it did fall over, it would have an impact, definitely psychological impact on the global economy or on the US economy, on the tech sector. If Tesla went under at this point for any reason like that, if it all collapsed, that would not be a great thing. Of course, he might not be implying that there's widespread deceit or fraud here. It might be just from that point of view that Elon's managed to talk the company into existence, a mega company. He's managed to talk the stock up, and that's been successful. As he said, he's made real money and he's invested that in the gigafactories, and they're pumping out so many cars at this point. Although there's a lot of things that Elon says that haven't come to fruition just yet, and there's a lot of value in Tesla that the expectation that needs to play out. The market cap is way above any car company out there, and margins are slipping. Deliveries just came out today, slipping a little bit. We'll have to see what happens over the next few years. It has to be said that Elon has produced the goods in terms of doing these very difficult things. Tesla's really responsible for the beginning of the EV industry and their way out in front. There has been talking up of the stock and the company. Is it justified? We'll have to see in years to come. They're certainly producing a lot of products and people are buying them. Now, it's at this point that Grantham mentions his friend Jim Chanos, who's one of the most famous short sellers in the world. He's been shorting Tesla for a long time. I understand he's still shorting Tesla, but to a lesser extent. He's been very critical of the company on the way up, of Elon talking the stock up, and he continues to be that way even today. Grantham said that Chanos bet that selling 5 billion more shares would not have the reaction of the share price doubling, and Chanos has lost a lot of money along the way. Although in 2022, it has to be said that Tesla's share price did go down quite a lot, nearly 70%. So he probably did okay out of that during that year, but I think he's still short. Grantham said that the bulls just said, oh look, they're doing a secondary offering and Elon can walk on water, and they drove the price higher and higher. And he said it must be maddening for those shorting the stock, betting against it, or even for those on the sidelines watching this happen. Grantham said that if you go back a few years, there are Tesla critics saying, just wait, there are VW and GM that are just gearing up, who have decades and decades of experience of ramping up, of scaling up, that they'll catch up, that they'll come back, but it hasn't happened yet. Tesla has just been kicking their butts since then, and still. What do you think? Do you think that Tesla will continue to kick the butts of the other companies as far as EVs are concerned? Do you think there's some deceit or hype involved there with Elon talking the stock up? Do you think it will come to an end? It does have to be said that I noticed today that we're coming up in December to 3 years where the stock will have basically gone nowhere. Net zero since late 2020. The price hangs around where it is now. It would have gone nowhere for 3 years. Will it be the same as, say, Microsoft or Amazon, where the stock really didn't go anywhere for quite a long time? Could it be 5 years or more where the stock goes nowhere? Because the market cap's so big, there was such a huge run up. It got over $400. It's never got back to that yet. Or will the stock continue up? Say when the Cybertruck comes out, will FSD work? Will it keep going up? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on X. Let me know on YouTube comments what you think about the Tesla price. Will it continue? Is it due for another ramp up? Or will it just stay stagnant or even go down? What do you think? Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a link here to the previous Grantham video where he talks about how he thinks the stock market's still in a major bubble, although it's declining. And here I'm going to put a link to the previous Tesla video talking about the price cuts lately and the margin drops. And I'll put those in the description as well in the show notes. Thanks for watching or listening this time, and I'll see you in the next one.